From M&T Bank Stadium, it is the Banner Ravens podcast. Paul Mancano and Jonas Shaffer live on a Sunday in November to recap the Ravens' 23-10 win over the New York Jets. Ravens improved to 6-5. They're over 500 for the first time this season, and they are tied atop the AFC North. We'll break down this game and take a larger look at the playoff picture. All that and much, much more. But first, a quick word from our sponsors.
For the fifth year in a row, Toyota is the best resale value brand according to Kelley Blue Book's KBB.com, including the 2025 Grand Highlander, best in resale value for midsize SUVs. Toyota, let's go places.
Looking for the ultimate game day spot? Head to Guinness, Baltimore. We've got fresh pints, the biggest screen south of the stadium, and the perfect place to cheer on the home team. Game time is Guinness time. All right, Jonas, the Ravens topple the Jets today, 23-10. Despite the fact they were losing 7-3 at halftime, they pull out all the stops in the third and fourth quarters of this game, and they pull out a win, a crucial win. That's their fifth straight win. They're over 500 for the first time this season, and because Pittsburgh lost today, the Ravens are tied at 6-5 atop the AFC North. They technically hold the tiebreaker as we speak, but none of that really matters until these two teams play each other, which they have yet to do. Jonas, not the prettiest game. We've said that many, many times this season. The important thing is that the Ravens won. A win is a win, but still not a great performance all around.
By the offense.
Certainly.
I mean, they're giving us a taste of...
Special teams was otherworldly, as we know.
Yeah. Well, aside from kickoff returns, but that was... We don't need to talk about that.
I think we do. John Harbaugh
we'll
opened...
for the preview. We'll do a 20-minute breakdown of why Charlie Kohler couldn't hold his block or couldn't hold his gap.
Hey, we came into this game talking about how the Jets defense, the Jets special teams was best in DVOA in the entire NFL. And John Harbaugh opened up his press conference
without a shout out to FTN or Aaron Schatz. Maybe they have their own internal metrics. I think there was another team that referenced how their own internal system for special teams had their team, not the Ravens or the Jets, being like 22nd or something like that. So I think there are other ranking systems out there, but yeah, it was probably a nice shout out to DVOA.
Yeah, but he also shouted out the Ravens special teams for keeping the Jets special teams mostly intact, and especially punter Jordan Stout for having a terrific game and the punt team there. Great day from the special teams. Solid, very good day from the defense. Not as much to be said about the offense.
Big day for all the Jordan Stout superfans and listeners of this podcast.
Which is many. I'd say that makes up 85% of our listenership.
Dozens. For his name to be mentioned 3 or 4 times before we talk about Lamar is definitely a surprise. Probably as surprising as the Ravens having 3 points at halftime. It was just a ugly game. It's weird to look at some of the stats, some of the advanced metrics, and see that Lamar, by EPA per play, had a pretty good game. 0.2 EPA per play, very, very solid. Basically on the verge of Pro Bowl. But on a play-to-play basis, this was just not a great game for the offense. I think it had a 34% success rate, basically as effective as the Jets were in this game. 34% as a baseline is basically where the Browns have been this entire season coming into week 12. The Ravens were terrible on early downs. They just could not get any running lanes. They could not really get anything through the air. The play action didn't provide the kind of pockets, at least in that first half, that we're accustomed to seeing. I think they averaged a grand total of, like 3 yards per play in that first half. They bumped it up slightly in the second half to about 5 yards per play. And again, we still didn't see the precision execution in the red zone or short yardage that is going to separate this team from the actual contenders. And the Ravens have not played a contender in a long, long while. As the Vikings are made to look more and more fraudulent, is there anyone else basically since the bye? I mean, I guess you could say the Bears team that they beat is turning out to be a pretty good win, but that was here in Baltimore.
With Tyler Huntley starting
with Tyler Huntley too.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone is confusing that Browns team for a Super Bowl contender. But you can only beat the teams on your schedule, and the Ravens have beaten some truly terrible teams by double digits, and that's a hard thing to do in the NFL, no matter how distasteful this offense can be at times.
The second third of this Ravens schedule, the first third, talking pre-bye, was as difficult as it gets when you're facing at Buffalo, home against Detroit, at KC, home against the Texans, home against the Rams. The second portion is as bad as that first portion was good. But that being said, you can only beat the teams that are on your schedule. Jonas, when was the last time you left a Ravens game feeling great about the way that this Ravens team was, and particularly the offense was going? Would it be Miami when the Ravens won 28-6?
Not really, because that was a game with a short field touchdown. That was a game where the secondary for Miami was just full of no names. We didn't know how much fight they had ahead of that trade deadline. Remember, that was the last game for Jalen Phillips in Miami before they traded him to the Eagles. There hasn't been a game this season where you could feel totally great about all three phases of this defense. I mean, obviously, you could maybe give them a little bit of credit for that Week 2 game against the Browns and how they exploded in that second half. But again, that was a game with a Roquan Smith return for a touchdown. I think another short field score. The Ravens didn't even outgain the Browns, I don't think, in that Week 2 win. So we're still kind of wondering exactly if this offense is going to raise the level, how high that level is. Ronnie Stanley telling us post game that like this basically isn't the offense of a Super Bowl contender. I don't know if this Ravens defense is enough to carry it by itself to the divisional round, to the AFC Championship game round.
What about adding in the special teams?
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
It was just a game that, on the one hand, you are eager to move past because of just how unpleasant it was to watch. But then you remember, oh yeah, the Ravens play in 4 days, 5 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And that means that we can move past this game pretty quickly, but it also means that there is not the usual amount of time for this team to actually do that self-study, do the self-diagnosis, figure out what's wrong, put the time in practice to fix everything. And so I think even though this Bengals defense is historically awful, it was able to hang with the Patriots today. And as we've seen with these divisional games, like it really doesn't matter how good or bad you are on either side of the ball. It probably will be competitive. So it might be another half or 3/4 of slop from this Ravens offense on Thursday.
Yeah, the Ravens did not outgain the Jets today. Jets outgained the Ravens 282-241. This was a really, really ugly first half from the Ravens offense. Lamar Jackson at halftime was 6 of 11 for 59 yards, taking 1 sack, just 4 carries for 7 yards. Derrick Henry had 5 carries for 14 yards. The Ravens, as a team, had 4 first downs, 72 total yards, and were 0 for 5 on third down. And that's why we heard a smattering of boos from the fans at M&T Bank Stadium today at halftime when this team was going into the locker room down 7-3. And they got their act together in the second half for the most part. But to me, the most concerning thing is still the play of Lamar Jackson. And I thought Kyle Goon, our columnist, kind of framed it well when he asked John Harbaugh postgame about this. He said, Lamar has set such a high standard. We all know this. He is an MVP, should be 3-time MVP. When he is at his best, there is nobody better in the NFL. Right now, he's not at his best. And I think it's whether it is the lower body injuries that he has been dealing with this season, from the hamstring to the knee to the ankle, whether it is the offense around him, whether it is the offensive line, he does not, to me, to the naked eye, look entirely comfortable in the pocket. And he doesn't look entirely comfortable scrambling either. He struggled with accuracy today, which is so unlike him. I mean, he
third straight game under 60% accuracy.
He over the last 5 or so years has been one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. And there were throws that he missed today. I mean, he missed badly on that 3rd and 3 early in the first half where he was behind and low to Mark Andrews. On the broadcast, they were saying perhaps he thought Andrews was going to sit in his route where he continued to go. So that could have been a miscommunication. He missed Isaiah Likely on an out route for what would have been a first down as well in that first half. He completed a pass deep in the second half to Tez Walker that was a little bit at his feet that Tez had to stop and turn around and get. So gets a completion, but not the best thrown ball there. He overthrew DeAndre Hopkins on the double move down by the end zone in the second half, what could have been kind of a put away touchdown. And even the pass interference call that the Ravens benefited from where Zay Flowers is clearly tackled by his defender as he's going towards the end zone. I don't know if that ball would have had a real chance of being completed because it was thrown well over Zay Flowers' head. Did you see that kind of inaccuracy from Lamar today? And do you think it's a matter of him not setting his feet, him being kind of skittish in the pocket? What is going on?
I mean, he had a clean pocket on the Andrews miss. On the miss, there was a miss to Isaiah Likely, where he's like throwing it kind of sidearm 3/4 and just really isn't close at all. Again, I don't know enough about footwork or ankle flex to really weigh in intelligently about what exactly his lower body and the state of his lower body is doing to his mechanics. I mean, he's always been that guy who, because of just how live and talented that arm is, has been able to make throws from weird spots, from weird arm angles, hasn't needed a perfect base. And I think maybe we're starting to see some of that come home to roost, just with not being able to kind of generate the power or the stability from that lower body that he's needed to. And it's a tough situation because obviously I think the O-line did better than it did today. It did better today than it did against Cleveland, not especially a high bar after what we saw Myles Garrett to the Ravens. But, even when Lamar was in kind of create mode, there wasn't a whole lot of brilliance out of structure. And that's disappointing. We saw him scramble, but not really do more than a couple yards at a time, not able to kind of juke guys out of his socks. There was one scramble, I think, in the third quarter where it looked like he was trying to plant off his left ankle and just didn't really have that side-to-side explosiveness that we know him to. I don't know if that is even the injured ankle, but I think we're all just kind of walking on eggshells around here talking about what exactly is up with him. And, they did enough today, but you're not going to be able to play a team as bad as the Jets every week.
Right. And Lamar said after the game, when asked about it, that his ankle felt good for the most part during this game, and that he doesn't feel like injuries have impacted his level of play. That being said, something clearly is. It doesn't feel like he's 100%. He's obviously not playing at the MVP level that he is used to. He's also not making a lot of mistakes. I mean, 13 of 23 in this game, 153 yards, did not throw an interception. The sacks only finished with one sack for 10 yards. So it's not like he was holding on to the ball ridiculously long. Obviously, this is not a very good Jets defense. This is a Jets defense that is near the bottom of the league, and a lot of their season stats are bolstered by two guys in Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner, who were there for the first half of the season and are no longer there. So you would like to have seen a little bit more from this offense in this game, and the running game continues to be less than perfect. Derrick Henry finishes 21 carries for 64 yards. He did have 2 touchdowns, but they get down to the goal line and everybody's holding their breath. They get into the end zone, but collectively, you can feel everybody who's watching and perhaps the guys on the sideline tense up because of the issues that they've had down there.
Yeah, with Lamar, I mean, obviously, I will need to go see the All-22, but I think one of the quotes that stuck out to me from, I think, his Wednesday, or I guess it was Thursday presser, because he didn't practice on Wednesday, was him being asked about his connection with DeAndre Hopkins, and him saying that basically he's overthrown him a couple times because he doesn't want to put the ball in harm's way. And I get that. You look at Lamar, since he came back from that hamstring injury, like his turnover-worthy play rate on PFF is one of the best in the NFL. And I think as we've seen what this Ravens defense has been able to do through the power of turnovers, it makes sense to play a more conservative style. But like there are points where, just like as a useful contrast to what the Jets and Tyrod Taylor did today, like there was the fourth down stop in the third quarter. They go forward on 4th and 3. Tyrod Taylor is looking for that kind of stop route, hitch route to John Mechie. Mechie is completely blanketed by Nate Wiggins. I don't even know if Mechie saw like through Wiggins and saw Taylor deliver the ball, but Taylor knew like, hey, there's pressure coming. I'm going to take my chances and just rip this ball to where he should be. And if he catches it, he catches it. If he doesn't, then Nate Wiggins probably won't pick this off because his back is turned to the ball. And it ends up being, the call was a bad decision, but the throw ends up being incomplete. The Ravens take over. They score another touchdown. They go up, 20-7 at that point?
20-10, I think.
Yes.
27? No,
I think 20 to, yeah. But, I think there are certain cases where you just would like Lamar, just like trust that your guy's there, trust that you have the arm strength, trust that you are better off giving someone a chance than you just skittering around in the pocket, trying to create some magic, considering what the state of this offensive line is, considering what the state of your scrambling ability is. I mean, obviously it was not a bad day for Lamar in terms of sacks, but even when he was able to break contain, there wasn't a whole lot of juice for the squeeze there as a scrambler. So I just think like he's got to, at some point, just kind of throw caution to the wind and say like, I trust D-Hop, or I trust Likely, I trust Mark Andrews, I trust that Zay Flowers is going to uncover at that last moment, and he will be where he's supposed to be, and my pass will be accurate enough for him to have a 70-30 chance to make that play. And, the big demerit against Lamar, if you want to call it, last year was that he threw to so many open receivers. Like that was the thing that people carried against him compared to what Josh Allen was doing.
Which was ridiculous, but continue.
Right, because of the gravitational pull that Lamar has on defenders and how many of those plays came open because of his scrambling ability. But, at a certain point, you've got to be able to, willing and able to kind of fit the ball in there. And I don't know if this is one of those games. Again, it's tough to tell without the all-22, but you would just like them to see a little bit more. I hit the end of my drop and then the ball's coming out.
Right. And you see when they try to take shots down the field, at times they have gotten rewarded. I mean, the ball that he threw down the field to Mark Andrews on a 3rd and 15 in his own territory ends up turning into a pass interference and gaining them like 30, 40 yards down the field. And it was a pretty well thrown ball that was absolutely pass interference. Obviously, the Zay Flowers ball that probably is a little bit overthrown, but took a shot downfield, tried to give his receiver a chance, and is rewarded for a PI. The problem is you're just not going to face too many defenses the rest of the way that are this bad. I mean, Cincinnati Bengals, absolutely you put in that category. But when I wonder whether this is sustainable, whether this offense is able to score enough points consistently week after week to win the games that they need to down the stretch, it is sustainable against the Bengals, and it is sustainable against the Bengals again. But, I mean, I just don't know if it's going to be good enough against Pittsburgh, against New England, and against Green Bay. And those are games that obviously you play Pittsburgh twice, you play New England, you play Green Bay. Those are going to be games that you need to win. That being said, I would be speaking out of both sides of my mouth if I didn't reiterate what I have said since the bye, which is just get wins. I don't care how ugly it is. This team just needs to win ball games. It doesn't. The only result that matters is the W. But when week after week, we're still seeing less than encouraging performances from the offense, but they're still getting wins. Like they are now firmly back in the playoff conversation, right? They are back firmly in the competitor conversation. But by token of that, then you hold them to a higher standard. And then you wonder, okay, well, looks like they can definitely get to the playoffs, but will they be able to win any games when they get there? And I think that's where I really have a hard time believing in this offense.
I think a lot of it is, kind of out of sight, out of mind. Like there is this invisible hand of penalties that is now knocking on the Ravens' door in a good way. Like you think back, I mentioned this in my preview for this game, but you think back to like this point last year. I think the Ravens were coming off that like 12 penalty game against the Steelers in Pittsburgh that they lost. The next week they go to LA to play the Chargers, and like that was a impressive enough performance by the offense against the Chargers defense that I think was like probably top 5 in a lot of metrics coming into that game. And the Ravens put up like high 20s, low 30s in that game. And it was so impressive because maybe this was a lot of defensive penalties, but they had like 8 penalties for, I think, over 100 yards in that one. And you look at what they finished with today, it is 5 penalties for 30 yards. Like one of those was a meaningless one at the end of it. The other one was a flag on Tyler Loop for kicking the ball short of the landing zone again. So 2 meaningless penalties in that mix. And the Jets, meanwhile, 6 penalties for 81 yards. You already mentioned the 3rd and 15 flag to Mark Andrews. That keeps alive a drive that ends with a touchdown. And then you get another pass interference on a pass to Zay Flowers that also keeps alive a drive
right.
that ends with a touchdown. So, obviously the Ravens were deserving of the flag on both those plays. But if there was just a little bit better coverage or a little bit better personnel on those situations where the Ravens are in obvious passing downs and can't come up with an answer beyond just hope that this guy is able to draw a flag, that is not a certifiable path to success. So that is just my concern. But, in the same way that we dinged this team last year for being bad at special teams, not being disciplined when it came to penalties, the Ravens have been very good on special teams this year, and they've been very, very good at penalties. I think they're top 5, top 7 in terms of the fewest penalties per game in the NFL right now. And they showed it again today, and that's not really reflected in the yards per play, nor is it reflected in the total yardage, but it is an important consideration as you consider why are the Ravens able to win these games relatively comfortably despite this offense coming with a C grade type performance.
Well, and the turnover margin keeps improving too.
Yeah.
Ravens get 2 turnovers. They don't turn the ball over. One of those turnovers came in garbage time. TJ Tampa picking off his first career pass, which is impressive. But the forced fumble by Marlon Humphrey down by the goal line, which really sealed it, and the recovery by Alohi Gilman, I believe that's his second fumble recovery this season. It goes to show just how much of an impact turnovers have in games. And obviously the Ravens know that well, because they know that on the other side of the ball. But the fact that they are able to force these turnovers in critical times, at critical moments, their defense has just massively improved since the addition of Alohi Gilman, massively improved since the addition of Draymond Jones. I mean, again, I want to see this defense against better offenses. I'm curious to see what the Bengals offense looks like by the time we get to Thursday night. It'll be a short week. I don't know who's starting at quarterback. The Bengals obviously at this point probably don't have a whole lot to play for. I want to see this defense against a good offense. But that being said,
might have to wait for a while, bud.
Yeah. But that being said, we also need to give the defense its flowers, because this defense has been playing a whole lot better since those additions. As bad as they looked for the first 6 weeks of the season, they look like a completely different unit.
Yeah, the run defense was great today. I mean, like the only real trouble that they had today was where the Jets made them look a little bit slow in the open field. Sometimes that was Tyrod Taylor, shucking off a tackle attempt from Roquan Smith in the pocket. Sometimes that was John Mechie getting in the open field. A lot of times it was Breece Hall getting into the open field and making guys look slow. And
I want
to imagine what the Chiefs would be looking like if they'd actually swung a trade for him.
Yeah,
at
really.
The midseason trade deadline.
Did the Chiefs pull out that win, by the way?
Oh,
of course they did. They just devil magic that they continue to pull out. I do want to issue an apology, because he's always listening, I'm sure, to Tyrod Taylor. I called him Tyrod in our last episode. Tyrod Taylor.
He doesn't care.
I know he doesn't correct people, but I wanted to get that corrected as well. But yeah, I mean, just a much better game from the defense. Draymond Jones making his impact felt. Had a tipped pass. Had a sack in this game.
Sack and a half.
Very good performance from a guy that the Ravens feel good about investing a draft pick in at the trade deadline. And, there were a couple hiccups here and there, and it got a little hairy down near the end. I mean, if the Jets score that touchdown at the end, it turns into a 3-point game. At that point, it would have been, I believe they kicked the extra point, to 20-17. And the Ravens offense would then need a kind of a put away drive. But overall, not enough can be said about just how good of a job Zach Orr has done so far in turning things around.
Yeah, and we would be remiss if we didn't properly contextualize just exactly what the Ravens have been beaten up on quarterback-wise. You think back to just the 5-game winning streak, looking at the 47 qualifying quarterbacks on RBSDM, runningbacks.don't matter.com. This is EPA, completion percentage over expected composite, just a nice metric of giving you a sense of how well these quarterbacks are doing on a per play basis, how accurate they are. So Tua is 25th of 47. Caleb Williams, 33 of 47. Dylan Gabriel, 46 of 47. JJ McCarthy, 47 of 47. And then Tyrod Taylor, obviously, just above Caleb Williams at 32 of 47. So they have not, in this stretch, faced a middle third, upper half quarterback.
Hey, Shador Sanders is currently putting a hurting on the Las Vegas Raiders.
How about that? And who knows, what Joe Flacco will be. It didn't look like he had that great of a stat line in today's game. Who knows what Joe Burrow is going to be like in his first game back from a toe injury. Just because he was a full participant in practice doesn't mean that he was all the way 100% there. It's hard for me to see them, not playing him despite where their season is and how quickly it's spun out of control. Just because Zach Taylor, I think, is probably in job security survival mode at this point. He's not going to hold out Joe Burrow for the betterment of the franchise or for the improvement of their draft pick stock. So I think it's going to be a better test for the Ravens defense. But even then, like, you look at the end of that Bengals game, they lost T. Higgins to a concussion, and it is really, really hard for a player to come back from a concussion in a short week. So we could be seeing a repeat of that Ravens-Bengals game last year, where I wildly overstated the impact of T. Higgins and his absence, because what did Jamar Chase do? Go for 250 yards total?
Yeah, ridiculous game
against the Ravens without having T. Higgins to draw any attention from him. So we'll see. Obviously, the Ravens, it's been a while since the Ravens allowed more than 20 points in a game. And I think if they again hold Cincinnati under that 20 spot, you would feel pretty good about the Ravens' chances of extending that winning streak to 6 games. But it's AFC North football, man. It's tough to tell.
Yeah. All right. We are going to take a larger look at the playoff picture on the other side of another quick break.
For the 5th year in a row, Toyota is the best resale value brand according to Kelley Blue Book's KBB.com, including the 2025 Grand Highlander, best in resale value for midsize SUVs. Toyota, let's go places.
Looking for the ultimate game day spot? Head to Guinness, Baltimore. We've got fresh pints, the biggest screen south of the stadium, and the perfect place to cheer on the home team. Game time is Guinness time. All right, it's Jonas's favorite segment. It is the New York Times playoff picture. We should be sponsored by the New York Times playoff picture at this point. Percentage chance that the Ravens win the division, Jonas. It's up to
Lamar Jackson's 88%.
And to make the playoffs in general, 89%, as we've said before, for all of the reasons it makes so much more sense. And it would be a whole lot easier for the Ravens to just win the division in order to get into the playoffs. It just doesn't seem incredibly likely that they don't win the division and also make the playoffs as a wild card team. But the playoff odds keep on rising, and that's all you can ask for is they head into a short week against the Bengals on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and John Harbaugh talks about how we're basically in a different season within the season at this point, because we have, 6 games remaining, I think, on the schedule, and it is 4 of those games are against AFC North opponents, and neither of those teams is the Browns, although it's TBD how much better Cincinnati is than Cleveland at this point. But if the Ravens take care of business in these next 2 games, obviously they would have to beat the Bengals on Thursday and then the Steelers after a nice mini break. Those division title odds would go up to 97% if you take it to 3 games. So it's win over the Bengals, win over the Steelers, another win over the Bengals. It goes up to 98%. Obviously, the biggest leverage spot in all this is probably that Week 18 game against the Steelers, because, as we said, if they are within a game of Pittsburgh by Week 18, then it really all just comes down to that game. For the most part, tiebreakers.
Yep,
will be a big deal in that, but. It's these next 3 weeks have huge leverage in terms of where the Ravens playoff odds will swing.
Yep. At home against the Bengals, as mentioned, on Thanksgiving. Then a mini bye before they face the Steelers at home. That mini bye is going to be awfully nice before they face the Steelers. Not sure who's going to quarterback that Steelers team. They had Mason Rudolph out there today, and then at Cincinnati, and then home against the Patriots, at Green Bay, at Pittsburgh to close out the season. So they're looking at a real chance here. They control their own destiny the rest of the way. If they are to win out, then they will be in the postseason. Crazy to think of this season. It's been an absolute roller coaster so far this year. But Jonas, who do you think who's got a better than award to go to today?
We should probably spend some time talking about Jordan Stout, right?
Yeah, Jordan Stout's got to get our who's got a better than award. First time ever. He had a 71-yard punt in this game, which tied the Ravens record, by the way, and all kinds of good things coming out off of the leg of Jordan Stout so far this season.
74-yarder, pal. How dare you shortchange
74,
him?
sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it was 71. An incredible season that Jordan Stout is having so far this year. I know it's kind of damning with faint praise to talk about after a win, the punter, but Jordan Stout's been money.
I mean, and as I tweeted, I think you could argue that 67-yarder, 65-yarder in the fourth quarter that he knocked out of the 5 was even better than the 74-yarder, because had a better net yardage, I believe, than the 74-yarder. He's just been crushing the ball, and I think back to like the Ravens' tale of discovery of Jordan Stout. Not that he was this undiscovered gem coming out of Penn State. Like he obviously was a known quantity because I think the Ravens were scouting him during his senior season. But I think the tale that like the Ravens scouts told us, or one of the Ravens officials told us, was like you go to watch him punt pregame and you could just hear like this sonic boom as that ball comes off the foot. And for the first like 3 seasons, like you knew he had that in him, but I think there was just this wondering, like, is he modulating it because he doesn't want to outkick the coverage? Is he taking some oomph off the ball because he wants to be more accurate because of, the different kinds of balls that he's trying to punt to maybe put some pressure on the returner, just with, all the different kind of bags that were in Sam Cook's bag that Jordan Stout was perhaps adopting into his own. But now we're getting the best of both worlds. We're seeing him just kick the ever-living out of the ball and also being very, very accurate with it. I mean, it's been like how many weeks, how many games, how many months at this point since he's really well and truly had like a stinker of a punt. I mean, I guess there was that one punt early in this game where the Jets nearly got to him, and I think he didn't have a great punt, but it didn't matter in the long haul because he still finished ending 61.5 yard average, one of the best in Ravens history apparently. Obviously the 74-yarder tied Sam Cook for the longest punt in history. Just a great job of, as John Harbaugh said, kind of relieving some of the pressure on that defense because the Ravens offense was not doing a good job of getting out from underneath its own goalposts there. And to have a guy like that, having a season like that, along with what we've seen from Tyler Loop, along with what we've seen from DeJounte Wester, aside from last week, it's just again, one of the kind of hallmarks of John Harbaugh that was absent last year, but has come roaring back in a big way this year.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of difference in close football games. Jordan Stout, obviously, an impending free agent. What do you think? 5 years, 89 mil?
A year?
Make it all guaranteed.
Yeah.
The first ever fully guaranteed punter contract.
Lord knows, like, whatever juju the Ravens were hoping to get for among their fourth-year guys, it seems like it is almost totally concentrated in Jordan Stout's impending market value. I mean, like, honestly, that's probably
David Ajabo got none of it.
Definitely not. And it's probably good for the Ravens because like the market for punters is only so big. Whereas if Travis Jones were having a 6 sacks type season, he probably would have priced himself out of the Ravens range. Tyler Linderbaum, again, missed some blocks today, had a costly holding penalty that was a little bit iffy. That was again kind of continuing his run of uneven form. So maybe there's still plenty of time left in the season for the guys who were pending free agents to make Eric DeCosta open up the checkbook. But so far, the only real clear winner, unless I'm forgetting someone from that 2022 rookie class, it's Jordan Stout.
No question. We will have plenty more coverage of this game on thebanner.com, where you can subscribe $1 for 6 months.
Shout out to the Banner.
Jonas, what are you and Gianna Hahn writing after this game?
Gianna is writing on just the short yardage ups and downs of the Ravens, the red zone woes of the Ravens. Obviously, they did not have a great game today, just 2 for 5 again. They came in today, I think, under 50% for the season in the red zone. They finished just 2 for 11 on third down today, which, gosh, I didn't know was that bad. And made just a kind of big picture look at, again, how this team has come back from the depths of 1-5 to now being 6-5, and the pretty overwhelming favorite to win the AFC North, even though I know all the Ravens fans listening are still pretty wary of what games in Pittsburgh could do to this team.
Yeah, everybody's just going to be, the fact that they have the mini bye and then they face Pittsburgh at home is going to do a lot for people's mental health, I think, over Thanksgiving, Black Friday weekend. Kyle Goon will have an excellent column, I'm sure. I don't know what about, but I'm sure it'll be terrific. And Childs Walker will have his 5 things, as always. At Jonas_Shaffer is his handle. I'm at Paul Mancano and at All Banner Sports. We'll have another podcast this Tuesday, hopefully with Childs Walker at the Ravens facility.
Did we want to address the spatted in the
Yes, that's a great point. Our word of the day from last week. What would be our word of the day this week?
Punt.
You threw out a good one early in this episode. I got to go back and listen to it.
Okay.
Can't remember what it was, but yes, in our last episode, our word. I'm tired. Our word of the day was spatted, and Kyle Goon was questioning the importance of that word, the reality of that word. One of our commenters, shout out to Harry Mantakos, said the word spat comes from an actual thing. Spats were white covers that you'd wear over your ankles when it was 1910 and you were wearing a tuxedo. So I'm not even going to look that up to verify that. Sounds correct to me. So thank you to Harry. And please comment, rate, review, subscribe. If you were to say 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, I will read it out here on the show. Let us know if you've spatted your cleats or your shoes.
If you
before.
you're probably old. I got a text from friend of the podcast, Kadri Ishmael, who obviously does a great job covering the Ravens, who watched the show and weighed in on the spatted nature of it all. He said Walter Payton would do it, and my generation copied it as a fashion statement. This generation does it for stability primarily, and obviously Lamar having the spatted shoes with the ankle and everything, no surprise there.
No surprise. In this game as well, having those ankles taped up. Maybe I will have my shoes taped up when you see me again, Jonas, just for some added stability. I did hurt my ankle, as you know, months ago, back in March, while on a bachelor party weekend. I was not 3 sheets to the wind. I had only had a drink or two, but I stepped in the wrong place while playing a Floor is Lava game, and, well, didn't end great for me.
Jameson Hensley also had a pretty significant ankle sprain by stepping into a divot, I think, at Ravens training camp that knocked him out for a couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, it's a serious thing out there. Get those ankles spatted. Thanks so much for tuning in.
You don't spat an ankle.
Whatever.
You spat a shoe.
A shoe. Or you could do it if you're not wearing any socks or shoes, right? All right. Well, we'll get to the bottom of this.
Sure.
For Jonas Shaffer, I'm Paul Mancano. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you on Tuesday.